Well then, here we are. I'd like to say this is where we left it last time, but that's not quite true because I ended up with quite a lot of work to do. Last time we tested, and for whatever reason, the right-hand side motor, let's put it this way so that my directions make sense, the right-hand side motor turned out to be a lot slower than the left. That was, as I suspected, an issue with the servo itself, and it actually took a while. I guess when I say these servos cost however much per servo, that's not really true. It seems like a good 3 out of the batch that I've got so far have turned out to be duds. So it took a while to find another one in the batch that ran the same as this. I did do it in the end. It took forever to unglue the motor that was there. You can still kind of see some of the craft. I got under there with a saw. I tried to pry under there with screwdrivers and things, but I was worried about the damage I would do to the polycarb base. In the end, in true Spinnerproof style, the solution was fishing line. The braided fishing line I use is quite rough, so I got sort of quite a decent length of it. Tied one end onto the workbench, did a kind of finger loop in the other, held it taut, and just sort of moved the joint across it, and it slowly sawed its way under. And that was how it eventually came off. So it is on. I haven't actually tested it. I'm kind of scared to, because I quite like to just go on in ignorance of the problems. But I suppose that should really be the first thing I do. So let's get this on. Let's get... Oh, now, this is where I stop for a second to check that I'm getting this the right way round. Please don't blow up. That would make me very sad. Oh, another thing I had to do. There was a loose connection on the regulator, so I ended up having to solder that, and now it's all been hot glue reinforced as well. Glad I found that at this point, because that would have been a very annoying intermittent fault otherwise. I also now need to get a battery out and just hope that it's charged, because battery management is much harder than I realised. Safety. I would go with the big one that I know is definitely charged, but I want to have this on board with a fairly realistic weight distribution to see how it's actually handling, which is boring but necessary. You should also find the tape, because this all needs to be bundled up into one big ball of robot. Again, a better video maker would have had this prepared before he started. That ain't me. So let's just get this all roughly together the same way we did before. One of the things I was least proud of when I watched back... Actually, there were lots of things I wasn't happy with when I watched back the stuff I did before. This whole thing was intended as a test of whether my phone could handle sort of doing a couple of hours of video recording. That's going to be necessary for something that we're going to be doing sort of later this year. Secret things. So I wanted to see, and just check that it could actually do that before I got too committed to the idea and how we're planning to do it. And it can. It could probably record for 4 or 5 hours quite happily. Now I've got an SD card in there to give me enough storage space. But I don't understand. This is something that Sam knows more about. There's something about the file storage system that is used by a phone this old that means it can't create a file larger than 4 gig. 4 gig is about half an hour of video on this phone. So instead of ending up with one nice long 2-hour thing that I could just upload straight to YouTube, I ended up with 4 roughly 30-minute things which don't join together smoothly. So that's been a lot of fun to deal with. At the time of making this, I don't even know if I'm going to upload the first lot, but what I'm going to do this time around, because I'm now smarter and wiser, is I'm just... Smarter and wiser, he says, doing this. Is I'm just going to stop the recording every now and then and restart, so at least I know the joins will be in places that make sense. So maybe you'll get this as one big multi-hour video. Maybe this will be installments, clogging up your feed. Maybe you'll never see it at all, in which case I can do whatever I like. But yeah, that was an issue. What was he? How did I get onto that? Things I'm not happy with. Oh, that's so many things. You know what? It doesn't matter, because it's together now, so... Turn it on. Okay, so immediately I can see my trims are a bit off, but... Oh, and everything's inverted for some reason, so I must have got the Oh, that was the thing. So when I was trying to debug the problem, I didn't do the most basic and simple thing that I should have done. So I was trying to work out if it was the servo that was the issue or something on the radio side. The simplest thing I could have done to troubleshoot that, and I think if I wasn't recording, I hope I would have done this immediately, is very simply switch the channels that the servos were on. If the problem continued on the same side, that would tell me it was the servo. If the problem then moved to the other side, that would have told me it was the radio. It was always likely to be the servo. That was the first assumption, but that would have been a nice, quick way of checking it, and it is what I ended up doing off camera. That, despite everything being inverted, was great. Fantastic. That handled nicely. That was controllable even with the sort of controls inverted, so that means I can press on. Although looking at this mess of wiring, I am very worried about how this is all going to fit. I was thinking, when I had the soldering iron out, I did nearly strengthen my resolve enough to shorten these servo wires. And then I didn't, because that's a horrible job. Sam, being the kind of prepared person he is, has a proper crimping set, which would be just amazing right now. But trying to I think I've got a servo somewhere where I did try to shorten the wires, and it wasn't pleasant, it wasn't particularly successful. That is because of a couple of mistakes I made that I don't think I would make again, but I think it is, at heart, just quite a tricky thing to do, because these are such fine wires, and you tend to really need the flexibility within them. Well, there's some of the servo wire that I shortened, so that's evidence at least that I did do it. It's a question of whether I can find the servo. It was an old broken servo that was going to go in the bin. It was, in fact, it was the one that was in the original Tropical Storm film. The one that got Tim Racker's experienced. Where did I put it? It's not back in its box. Thrilling content from the Spinnerproof YouTube channel. Some ESC. That's stuff that a receiver came in. SG90, 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 SG90. Well, I did it. It was bad. It's maybe so bad that I've put it somewhere that I'll never use it. Oh, another problem I'm having, by the way, in the shed at the moment is that it's getting so hot in here that my hot glue joints are failing, which is so much fun. Now, a lot of people would take that as a sign that you shouldn't use hot glue for this kind of thing. I'm not a lot of people. What's that? No, that's just a... Oh, that's the one I'm using for this. I should probably have that out. But yeah, suffice to say, I've done shortening servo wires. It's not fun. It wasn't very successful. I could do it in a way that I think would work. But considering I want these to be, you know, bomb-proof and child-proof, if I can avoid doing it, I will. There's probably a way that I could manage the wires a bit better than I currently am. Once I've got some actual walls on the side, constraining things, that might become a little bit easier. The other issue, of course, is the fact that I'm using a top pin receiver. That makes life much harder. So my current plan, still need to work out how I'm mounting a weapon servo, first of all, which maybe should be the next job. But the other thing is that I really need to sort out the power distribution. And I have been thinking about this quite a lot in the over a week now, actually, since I started this. Come on, tape. I don't want to get scissors near this battery, if I can help it. There we go. I might leave that as is for now, you know. So the current thinking is, obviously I've got the battery port, which has, by the way, unbent slightly over time, which I find interesting. There's also a lot of stress fracture-y kind of looking stuff there, which isn't very pleasant. So the plan is for the battery to kind of go in like this. So wires reversed, push in, tuck everything away, and be able to access it sort of by the charge plug, if anything, to pull out again with some kind of probably tape cover over here. That then means that I need to work out a switch position and just stick with it at this point. So I think if I position the switch up here somewhere, something like that might be good. That then gives a lot of wire to go sort of out and back around as the battery goes in, but it also means that it will be quite easily able to come out as the battery comes out and give me a grip on this. So I think that's going to be the placement. The issue is that I now need to drill a hole that I can stick through in probably the toughest place on the whole robot. I'm not looking forward to doing that. I might procrastinate about that a while longer. So let's think about... Oh, you know what? Maybe... Hey, this could be nice. Still not any better to drill, but maybe it should go all the way down here. Can I even squeeze it down there? I think once I do a hole there, that would keep it nicely out of the way. This could then kind of stay around here, and it means that all of this wiring will stay below where the servo will be and not get in the way. That would be nice. I might go with that. I could procrastinate about this for ages, or I could just get it done. Procrastinate. No, I'll get it done. That doesn't... Oh, that means a whole table swap. Oh, I'm the worst. Let's clear the workbench, which of course is being used as storage, because why wouldn't it be? Talk amongst yourselves. I did think at one point I was going to try and live stream this. That would have been interesting. It turned out the quality off my phone was so bad it would never have worked, but it would have been interesting if people could actually talk among themselves at this point. You know what? Before I put the table away, I've got to show some stuff off. I've shown this stuff off elsewhere, but I think it's worth showing off again. First things first, last time I was a man who was in conversation with Joe Brown about these. Oh boy, am I happy with these. So these are some hammers that are going to go onto a bold one. So they're pretty much at the same scale. I think the length is slightly greater because this was sort of my best attempt at recreating the shape by eye. And I did okay. I sort of underestimated the height of it. So I've had to make the shaft a little longer just to make sure that it actually gets clearance around the robot. But these are the most definitive version of this hammer that there's ever actually been. It was designed in 2D, then printed, stuck down to some aluminium, and I think a combination of me and Sam cut it out. I probably did the straight cuts on the shaft. He did the fiddly stuff around the head. So we came pretty close to this. Obviously, with it being bigger, it was quite easy to get it roughly within visual okayness. I think it's kind of hard to tell now because it's taken so much damage. I think it's fair to say we did a pretty decent job. The rear end, you can still kind of see it, except for the fact it's been tweaked back. I think we didn't quite get the curve on the top right. But obviously, with it being a much larger piece, it still looked pretty much there. When you go smaller, however, small errors sort of count more. So this, being millimetre perfect, is just a beautiful thing. I've got one for a bold one. Technically the other one is a spare, but I would quite like to hold a split decision and put this on it. Because it's 3mm nylon. Split decision currently has a 3mm ABS version. So this would probably slip pretty much straight in. Unfortunately Sam has it at the moment. We're quite a long way away. But maybe, just maybe, we'll get the proper hammer on there. That would be a lot of fun. So that's thing number one to show off. Thing number two. Oh yeah. I'm having to tell myself that I'm not going to become a kind of parts collecty person. But this was too good to turn down. Nate kind of offered up some pieces of Thunderchild. Because he's obviously replacing it, building a V2, which is looking like it's going to be super good. Which you would expect. And I think I was one of the first people to get to the post. And I had pretty much the pick of parts. And I went for this because, obviously, Uddergun sticker. Sam did point out that, well, I think Sam assumed that this was the part that we'd managed to hit and not damage. But this is actually the underside. So what I've managed to do is get a memento of our first fight by taking probably the one piece we didn't even touch. But I'm super happy to have this. Don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. It's also it's super light. It feels weird. Don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but it's a cool thing to have around. The little sort of details of damage on it have been really interesting to look at as well. And it also came with a bonus haul of stickers, Yeah, nice little collection from the American scene there. Nate, you cheeky boy. And then, just to sort of add to the fun, the Holy Grail. No idea what I'm going to do with that yet either. That needs to be saved for something, you know, something special. So yeah, little show-off sesh over there. I'm just procrastinating about working on this robot, to be honest, because it's now at the point where I can mess it up. And that is not a point that I enjoy. That is the point where I will do anything I can to not risk messing it up, including just never finishing it. That's kind of why Wowbagger, the part finished Antweight that just came out of that box, is still in the state it is, because I got to the hard bit where it looked like things could actually go wrong. So let's shift table number 1 out of the way. And let's get fold down workbench into the fold. What's that stuck on? Oh, a welly, of course it is. Good enough. Go on, let's line it up properly. This is a bit of a trade-off between good camera angle and stable workbench. Good camera angle it is. Get out the most important thing in the shed. Sacrificial wood block. Oh, you know when I was doing the heat bending and I said that I was using the block I would usually use for that to hold the camera up? Turns out this second one was around all along. Let's get out a drill. Easier said than done with the way I've moved the shed out. There we go. Please be charged, please be charged, please be charged. It's charged, awesome. Now normally if I was laying out a switch like this, I'd be really trying to get the most precise hole I could. On this, I do not care. As long as it's functional, I will be happy. Ooh, I don't like having the receiver as part of this bundle. Actually, I can just... Oh, for a second I thought I'd pulled the antenna off there. That was stressful. Let's untape it. I can redo this later. It's fine. Come on. Get out of here. No, out of here, I said. This also gives me a chance when I put this back on. Only a 50% chance, but a chance nonetheless. Of actually getting the servos the right way around this time, which would be nice. It's an easy thing to change, but still annoying to have to change. Okay, so power distribution out of the way, receiver out of the way. Just the really cheap servos in there to potentially get damaged. I'm not going to be able to do this in a way that you can see. Up we go. Professionalism. There we are. That's more like it. Gonna need some small clamps. Small clamp the first. Oh, of course, it doesn't really clamp on properly, does it? This is all just a nightmare that I've created for myself. It's like, why do I already have the wheels on? Just so I could test it and feel better about what I was doing. Was that a good enough reason? Not particularly. What good sized clamps do I have left that aren't holding the camera is the next question. Is this going to have enough? Yes, just. You know what? I'm going to take this opportunity to do the thing I know I need to do. And that is stop and restart. End of part 1. Okay, lesson number 1 of trying to do this. Phone has to be removed from stand and shot has now moved. Have fun with that. Right. Should really centre punch this, but this doesn't feel like it. Actually, that's quite sturdy. I might centre punch it. Why not? Any excuse to use a hammer. Of course, this is going to be a centre punching taken with no markings, meaning that really it's meaningless. But it will stop me letting the drill bit wander, which would be nice. How out should this... Just going to kind of centre it with the servo wires. That seems really dumb, actually, now I think about it, because that just gives it less clearance. Haha! Let's go. Let's be brave and go lower. One of the... Oh, I can't go lower because it's bent. That's annoying. Go higher! One of the... Okay, not as solid as I thought. One of the features of the switches I'm using, the ones from the BBB store, the actual switch on them, the switch lever, the switch arm, is quite small, which obviously in compact Antweight designs is a good thing, but I'm used to much larger ones which you can mount sort of under thicker material and it not be a problem. So I was thinking that I could do it down nearer the curve, and if it had to sit a bit lower, that'd be fine, it'd still be accessible, but I'm not sure it would be with this size of switch. So going higher there was probably sensible. You can see it's not exactly small, but it's not as tall as I'm used to. That is the ruler. See how long this is, just out of curiosity. That's about 4mm, but still. Basically, if I can't do it under foam board, it's not big enough for me. But, of course, for normal, proper builds where you're actually using proper materials, it's great. Right, biggest drill bit I have is a 4mm. Let's hope that'll do. I'm going to have to file this out either way, so... Is the 4mm in this part of the toolbox? No, that's a 2. Which means it's hopefully in this bit. If it's not in here, I've got a problem. Brilliant. That's the 3. Oh, this means it's out on the side. Oh, this is going to take a while. I would just go with the 3, but I already know the 4's not going to be big enough, so might as well minimise the amount of filing I have to do by actually finding the right size bit. Tidiness would really pay off in here. No, I don't know where that is at all. That's annoying. Let's see what other bits we have. It's not actually a 6, it's probably a 5? Yeah, let's go with the 5. Is it straight? Because I know that some of these aren't. Yep, it's straight. It'll do. Right, this is going to be unpleasant. It just is. This is horrible. I'm not enjoying a moment of this. I need to use so little pressure. It's not even going anywhere. I would do a pilot hole with a smaller bit, but I've had bad experiences with polycarb and that, where it just starts to chew up and crack. Jeez, what is this bit? This is the deadest drill bit. Now see my drill bits. Oh, beautiful. Oh, it's weird doing this on a clear materials one, because I know my finger's not in the way, but it damn well looks like it. Oh, none of that was enjoyable. That is Oh, I don't want to do that again. I do not want to do that again. But it's a hole. It's a very messy hole, which I'm now going to have to somehow clean up. Which again, is going to be fun. I think I actually caught the hot glue as well there. That was close to doing that. Actually, I really should check that that's still... the wires seem fine. Yeah. That's the kind of thing I should have planned ahead on and done before I even had this stuff in place. Live and learn. Use my excessively long fingernails to try and get the worst of this off. Ugh. God, this is a pain. Let's use the wrong tool for the job. Again, clear material makes this scary. Maybe a deburr tool of some kind should be on my little purchasing list at the moment. Like I say, I'm going to have to file this out somehow, I think, because I don't think that's quite enough clearance. I also don't know if my circular file will actually get in that hole. Maybe. Not yet, but it will. I'll make sure of it. See, it is tapered, so I can kind of start the cut at least. There's just no good way of gripping this. There we go, that's starting to move now. Just want to give it a little more width that way, because the switch is going to be mounted that way. Just making sure it'll have enough room to move. So unfortunately, it's quite a hard thing to test fit without having the switch actually solidly mounted. So you just want to make sure there's plenty of clearance before you mount it up. Becoming increasingly bothered by this wheel as well. I think it's just the glue job I've done on it, but it's a bit wonky and it's got a big flat spot. Luckily, the actual speed of the motors, I don't think it can make that much difference. It's not like it's going to skip on that part of the wheels. It's not rotating fast enough. It just annoys me visually as much as anything. If I was really spending time on this, I'd probably try and square this hole. But that is not happening in the time frame of this build. Again, doing all of this without servos in place would have made a lot of things much easier. If I'd really planned ahead, I'd have done this before I even bent it. But that's getting unreasonable now. That would involve having an actual design. Slowly moving material, but not as fast as I'd like. So this servo's on an angle as well. This just isn't very good, really. I have to be so mindful of the wires as I do this. This is also the finest of the files. It's the only one that fits. This whole thing probably needs blurring at this point. That might be enough. Let's see if I can do a rough test fit of the switch. Okay, that switch moves a lot further than I remembered. So I don't think this is quite going to be enough. In fact, I think inside I know it's not going to be enough. Yeah, it's not. It's got a couple of mil to go. Oh, how annoying. If the servos weren't there, I would kind of ream it that way with the drill bit. But that seems stupid, frankly. Fuck filing it is. Great, just more marks on the outside that I'm trying to avoid. It's the first time I've ever thought that a die filer would improve my life. Because that would be a sensible next purchase. This feels like a potential thumbnail. The clickbait titles that could come from this scene. The file's getting pretty gunked up as well. Oh, that feels like it's biting now, that's nice. Other annoying thing about this, of course, is that a lot of the material removal I'm actually doing isn't helpful because it's a rounded edge for a square piece. Come on, last leg. Might just be enough. I'm glad I've made a visible difference at least. It almost looks level as well. Almost. It's not, but almost. So let's get the neutral lead out of the way. Hey, that seems to have its full throw. Of course, as soon as I mount it up, I can't guarantee I'll get it perfectly placed, so I better give it a little extra clearance. This will, of course, be getting hot glued on, because how else would you attach such a vital component? In fact, if I get the hot glue gun on now, I'll just keep doing this until it's hot, and then I'll know I have enough clearance, and I'll have been efficient with my time. I think when Ben did his boat video, he couldn't have nailed me more than when he described his build as a Ryan-style ball of hot glue. That's my niche, and I'm proud. I'm actually pushing a big burr onto the inside here as well, which I'm going to have to deal with. That's a really big burr on the inside, wow. How annoying. That's actually going to be quite tricky to deal with. Scalpel. Scalpel. Oh. I put it away in its correct place. I never saw that coming. Best way to do this, maybe down on the surface. Give you a hope of seeing this. Nearly tried to catch a scalpel. Never catch the scalpel. I've learned that the hard way. Sometimes I do think it's a bit of a miracle that I can actually get anything built with the motor skills that I have. But hey, with low enough expectations, you can achieve anything. That's actually better. Sweet. Oh, that's... Just melt the handle of my file a bit. Cool. Oh no, I've lost the safety cover for the scalpel. This is not ideal. I see it, but I can't reach it. Big bit of wood to the rescue. And put away the scary thing for a while. Excellent. Take a second to clear up after myself. Put the drill bit away, because then the whole box of them can go away and the drill can go away. And I'll have half a chance of finding the things I need. Let's put that in the 5mm bit slot where it actually belongs. Wouldn't that be a novel idea? Is the glue gun ready? Yes, it is. Right. So this probably deserves more thought than I'm about to give it. This is one of the most nerve-wracking decisions in the robot, because it's going to kind of dictate so much of how the internal layout comes together. So I want it that way. I want it coming through there, and I want it biased towards this side. Okay, already that's struggling to fit down there. I'll just have to... Oh, actually, that's quite nice. If that wire ends up running parallel... In fact, I might even hot glue that wire in place. That would be very helpful. But I need to get the switch straight first, which is going to be tricky because it means I've got to get it in position while hot glue is setting. Just give it a go. Once again, I'll have to accept the burns that I'm about to receive in the line of duty. Also, of course, got to do this without getting the hot glue in the mechanism of the switch, because that will just scrap the switch. In you go, in you go. No more squeeze out, please. I think we got away with it. Don't know how in focus that is, but frankly, I don't care. Sometimes the video comes second, you know, to the power on hardware of the robot in this case. Go, switch still moves. I'm going to keep moving it a little bit just in case there is any glue in there. Perfect. And then, maybe I'll regret this later, but just going to hot glue this wire down as well. Because that's just too perfect to not utilise as a bit of positioning. I could even do the same here, except then I'm asking... Actually, that would be good. If I hot glue that down there, that means that whatever happens to pull on the wires, it's not going to pull out of the switch. And that is a very big deal to me, because I soldered that switch. I don't trust those joints. So yeah, let's do this. Someone somewhere is screaming right now. I mean, someone somewhere is probably always screaming. Someone somewhere is screaming specifically at what I'm doing, whether they know it or not. even Sam, to be fair, has received some very valid sort of criticism of some of his wiring practices on Kylo in particular, actually, where it was partly because we were doing it in a rush, but we just didn't really worry about insulating most things. So there were a lot of sort of, exposed motor ends and things like that, which aren't really best practice. Oh yeah, like I said last time, remind me to tape wrap this before we close the whole thing up. But you know what, maybe I could do that now. I did try to heat shrink it, but I didn't have the right size heat shrink, and my attempt to make the wrong size heat shrink the right size heat shrink didn't go very well. Yeah, let's tape wrap that now. I don't know if this thing produces any meaningful heat. I feel like if any part in here is going to, it would be that. I guess I'm choosing not to care. I think, to be fair, not having it insulated would be a greater risk than insulating it and potentially having a bit of heat build up. I've already globbed hot glue all over it, so if heat build up is an issue, I've probably already done the damage anyway. Go tape wrap. Ah. Very careful. Many precision. So that could even... I don't know if I'm gonna realistically have to try and do the foam board sort of inboard, so it would have to live like there. That might actually work, to be fair. Remember, I'm going to have a servo up here, which is the next thing to fit, to be fair. Just working out how it's going to fit, how it's going to sort of go in with the rest of the layout. Might even... Maybe I should be gluing this down as well, you know? Gonna do it. Just gonna do it. Again, potentially not best practice, not necessarily something I would encourage others to copy, but for what I'm doing right now and the concerns I have about the wire management, this feels like the best solution I have. Typically, I'd be taping this kind of thing down, which obviously is a bit less permanent, and that is, I suppose, an advantage of it, but one thing I'd worry about is whether the heat's doing any damage to the wiring, but realistically, let's be honest, it shouldn't be. It'd be nice, however, if this glue actually set up a bit faster. Although, to be fair, I'm trying to glue over, which obviously isn't really the right way to use the glue. So, again, let's cut the glue some slack and admit that it's my fault. So I'm just going to hold this for longer than I think is reasonable until it dries. In fact, maybe I can speed up the drying with a little bit of blowing. The only concern I have right now is that I am wasting the space beneath all of this. But so I was thinking I might kind of coil the servo wires into that. Although, to be fair, I still could. This isn't necessarily stopping me doing that. Oh, come on, you really need to dry now. Okay, I think that is there. Now, this obviously looks like a mess because it is a mess, but this is genuinely the most thought I've put into wire management at the earliest stage of a build in anything. So I'm borderline proud of what I'm doing at this stage. So, give that a little second longer just to set. But I am going to think about servo position. I think the first thing that I know I'm going to have to do is take these off again, because I think I'm going to end up hot gluing this to the very back panel and then doing something under it just for support that still leaves the maximum sort of actual space for wires to route and things like that. So I think it's going to be a question of getting that hot glued on, then working out how big a buffer I need in between, just hot gluing it in place. Not sure I feel good about hot gluing onto both the top and bottom of a servo, but I suppose there's so much hot glue on there already that if there's going to be any thermal deformation that creates any problems, it would already have happened. It's also only over the part where the motor is, which isn't as critical. You'd think it would be, because, you know, motor important, but it's actually the gears. If there's any deformation up in the gearbox, the gears can have issues. Whereas deformation around the motor, it's still a motor. It's metal cased, it can kind of resist any problems that might cause. All of that said with unearned authority. So, what I realised last time as I struggled to do this is I've actually got some better cutters. Look at these bad boys! So these should make light work. Oh, that was a satisfying sound. Okay, that's kind of broken the back of it. Just get in with some snippy snip. And there we go. Now I'm actually going to file this down as well because I want to be gluing it flush to the back. And as is, if it's up against a flat surface, it's going to tweak around. All of that without a shot, sorry. It's filing time! Oh, these files are possibly the best purchase I've made, to be fair. I don't actually know what material these servo casings are made of. Whatever it is, so far it's not fighting very nicely. Maybe I can try and cut it closer? Or do I just get a thin bit of 3mm ABS and just glue over there? Maybe that's the better approach, you know. I've got plenty of offcuts that I can do that with. First, let's tidy a little. I guess I was going to put the drill away and then never did, so I'm just going to hide it over there. Which is the same as putting it away, really. These I shouldn't need again, they can go back. It's interesting, when I did a big sort of organise of this place, I did try and think about the retrievability of tools. But since then, my idea of what tools I use has changed actually quite drastically. So it really needs a big rearrange to reflect that change. Not getting it now, though. Right. Spare materials box, let's go. There must be some 3mm fragments in here. Oh, hey! It's the servo I was talking about that I tried to do. It's just, it works. It's not pretty by any means. Why is it in here? This is the materials box, not the electronics box. Come on, random 3mm offcuts. Oh, there we go. That's not a 3mm offcut, that's a 5mm offcut. That happens to be less than 5mm in one way. Ah! ABS or HDPE? The choices. This HDPE bit is almost still a usable part, so I might keep that. Oh, this means I've got to cut something. Something you can do with materials this thickness, especially the ABS, is you can just score them with a scalpel and then snap, but I think it's easier and safer to just cut it quickly with a hacksaw. It means clamping, but ooh, pigeons are either fighting or shagging on top of the roof. I think it's time for another quick video restart. So while you're gone, I'll get this clamped up because you don't want to have to watch that. And we're back and out of focus. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. There we are. I did something. I don't know what. Well, that's really messed with the brightness. Oh, I should not touch the screen. The brightness goes all over the place. Right. We're clamped in. I haven't measured anything. I'm just going to get a hacksaw, take off a chunk, and hope it's roughly right. Because that's the Spinnerproof way. I think I was a little tighter than this before, wasn't I? Oh, yes. So, I suppose I can do sort of a rough servo's width as a measurement. Yeah, I know roughly where I need to be now. Okay, I'm just going to bring this right the way across. In fact, I won't come right the way across. I will force myself into a dodgy cut at a dodgy angle. There we go, that's plenty big enough. Yeah, that's way oversized. Perfect. So now, in the most awkward cut of 2020 so far, this is going to be noisy and just unpleasant to make. It's happening at a very unnatural angle. I'm not enjoying any of it. I can at least see where it went. Hello there. Perfect. Flawless. You need never measure anything in this game. It can all just be eyeballed. All these people with their CNC, they're just guessing. Excellent. I should give it a quick filing, but I don't care. What I am going to do, this is actually going to be quite a critical piece of gluing, is I am going to quickly get the old sandpaper out and give it a little roughing up. Which is likely going to be more a roughing up of my fingers than the actual piece. ABS is very soft when it comes to this kind of thing. You always get individual scratches with this sort of coarse sandpaper on this material, which isn't a bad thing for what I'm doing. Ow, my everything. There we go, and I will do the same on the servo just for completeness. Again, really nothing drastic, just enough to make me feel like I've done something that's going to help. Alright. I'm trying to go quite light with the glue on this, because otherwise it's going to potentially interfere with the perpendicularity of the pieces. I'm aiming, if anything, even with this small amount, to get some squeeze out. There we go. That seems pretty level. There we go, and that will just go onto the back. I'm going to give it a second to set again. I think maybe the hot glue just doesn't like the humidity in here right now. Since I'm not cutting, let's get this properly centred up, shall we? Oh, so much welly. There we go, now I can start using the middle of it instead of having everything precariously on the edge. Perfection. Let's bring you out a bit. You don't mind seeing the edge of the workbench if you can see more actual useful stuff. So that can go away. Go back in the spare materials box. Convenient. And I guess there's a limit to how long I can procrastinate about this next step. Now, part of me wants to do this right at the very top to give maximum clearance everywhere else for electronics, but I feel like this is the point where I could really mess this up, you see. Because I think that even if I leave a sort of 5mm clearance for a foam board top, I think there's still going to be enough room internally to get all the wires fitted and routed as they need to be. I could be incredibly wrong about that. And it would really mess things up if I was. But I do honestly believe that there is space for everything. Don't know what to do. Trust instinct and get something slightly more compact and something nicer looking, or play safe and make sure I don't have to do this twice. You know what? Instinct has it. And I'll probably regret that, but what are you going to do? And in the name of instinct, I'm probably now going to rush this part, which isn't even the sort of problematic bit, and end up with a problem. Oh, that is not central, that is not central, that's a problem. Okay, so, in a snap decision, I have left 5mm at the top, but not 5mm at the side. I think if I decide to do the sidewalls sort of inboard, it's going to have to be in a way that goes around this, because... oh, that is not at all level. Oh, well. Because otherwise, the weapon wasn't going to be on the centre line, and that I cannot handle. The weapon has to be as near the centre line as possible. That would really upset me otherwise. So there we are. Now, that is probably strong enough, but I really want to put some kind of stack up of material in here just to make sure it's supported on another sort of plane. Ooh, that should not be sitting near the hot thing, Ryan. So, you know that bit of material I just randomly put away? Regretting that massively, because I could just cut chunks of that and stack them up. What I'd love to do is cut a dimensionally accurate piece of, say, 3mm that I can just stand up here and take up minimal space. You know what, maybe I should trust myself to do that. Let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? Actually, I might. I'm not convinced this is 3mm. I remember it being 3mm. It doesn't quite feel the same as the 3mm HDPE. Yeah, it's not. It must be 2mm. God damn it. Well, that's fine, because it was more appropriate for what I just did. This, however, the extra thickness as a vertical support, I think, will be helpful. Now, I'm hoping that this bit just happens to already be the right size. That would be perfect. It's not quite. Damn it. I could probably shove it in there and... Oh, no. Nope. Not taking that approach. I am, however, going to use this as a rough guide. So, remember how I just moved all of this because I wasn't cutting anymore? Let's go back. This can go away for the time being, but stay on, so I don't want to wait for it to reheat again. So my first cut really wants to be along here, which isn't going to be easy to clamp for. Maybe if... Okay, this is going to be a noisy cut, but I'm going to have to deal with it. Work holding is so just incredibly important in everything you're doing with this kind of thing. It can make or break what you're trying to do. If you don't sort of plan for how you're holding a workpiece, a cut can become essentially impossible to do to the standard you have to. With this, it doesn't really matter, but that's certainly an issue we've had with the Beetles. And HDPE is noticeably tougher when you cut it than the ABS. It's not the most resilient plastic in the world, but you really do feel the difference. Admittedly, again, the work holding probably playing a part, but... Right, let's try that. As a sort of fit up is probably a grandiose one. I'm going to have to remove it, that's annoying. That's the best way to show you this, there we go. Still a little much. Maybe that would be okay. Maybe. Let's quickly cut it off and just see how it is. So I can hold much closer to the cut this time, which is nice. That reduces the amount it moves on me, makes my cutting a bit more efficient. Even if I am going at an angle that I don't really like. I could have clamped even closer to the cut, but this was good enough. Good enough for a small cut in a softish material. If this was titanium, I'd have about 70 clamps on here right now and still be crying. There we go. Get rid of the paper. Not that it makes any functional difference, just annoying me. This, by the way, if it wasn't obvious, was a bold one test cut frame rail thing. Okay, so one thing I'm immediately noticing is that this isn't particularly square, but that might actually work to my advantage. Or disadvantage, you know, either way. It'll do something, it'll have an impact. Let's get it back in here. Yeah, it stands quite nicely. That's pretty good. It's a little bigger than it should be. Gluing it is going to be tricky, actually, because it's going to be quite a lot of squeeze out happening to the point where the joint might not actually hold, which would be upsetting, but I'm just going to have to give it a go and see what happens. Also have to remember not to glue the bit close to my finger and thumb. I mean, I'm getting burnt doing this no matter what, but I'd like to get burnt as little as possible. I'm not going to go too... Oh! I'm not going to go too heavy on the glue for this one as well, actually. Just because I don't want too much squeeze out happening. Partly for my safety. Ow! Not overly happy with where I've put that, but it's in now, so don't want to mess with it too much. See, if I put that over to one side more, well, actually, for supporting it, that's probably the right place. Maybe a little more that way, but then I do get into the pile of hot glue that I've made. I think that's probably about as good as it was going to get. Oh, you know what I should have done? Should have committed to accuracy a little more and made this kind of L shape so that it could also come up here and attach to that. But it's fine. This has always been a speed build. It's never been about overall quality. There's a base level of quality I'm aiming for, but it's not about making the... I was going to say it's not about making the most robust robot possible. It really is. But for different stresses. So next steps. Let's think about the next steps. I need to find and kind of finalise an internal layout. But I think to do that, I need to get the sides on first. Because the only way I'm going to know if the internal layout works is with, as an absolute minimum, the battery being constrained from this side. Now, if I use 5mm foam board, is there actually going to be room for the battery to slide in and out of there? I feel like this is something I was thinking about as I did this, but I could easily have forgotten at a critical time. So say that was there. This could be tight. This could be tight. Where did I put the battery? Did I actually put it in the LiPo bag? Like a... No, of course I didn't. So let's imagine... Again, this is hard to hold so that a camera can also see, but let's imagine that that is there. Uh-oh. So I can't bend this in. Sorry, not shot again. So I can't really bend this in any further. So I could do a side panel out of something thinner, just for this side. Or I can do it more sort of outboard, which I'd have to copy on the other side, which wouldn't be too bad. It is doable. And because I'd have a top panel, I would still be able to attach to there. I think it's just going to have to be outboard, you know. Which I don't love, but I will live with. So I guess I better work out a shape for it. Now, I did design this in terms of just sketching it. But I didn't ever actually work out the dimensions of it or the angles of it or anything like that. So I think workbench is going to have to go. And table is going to come back in. And we're going to do some serious robot design. I also haven't thought about any kind of cutting board for cutting this. But oh well. You know, I might even scissor cut it. That's how janky I'm happy for this to be. I'll probably end up scalpeling it though, just for a sense that I've done the right thing. So let's get the drill away properly, because that means this can get out of the way and I'll have more room to lose stuff. Actually, you know what? Maybe before I start building the sides, I should get the wiring confirmed in terms of what goes into what channel. Maybe that's a good thing to do quickly as well. I'll do that now. Let's get this set up in a fairly, picturesque way. Oh, I was zoomed in further than normal. Okay. So, receiver. I'm thinking more and more, by the way, that I'm not going to include the LED just because it's a big battery drain, but for testing purposes, it's well worth having in place. I used the right... I'm not sure I've used the right servo. Oh well. It's fine, I'm just not sure that I have any servo arms for it. If I do, I don't know where they are, but that's a problem for later, Ryan. That's a problem for fairly soon, Ryan, but... So, let's just check. So we're on Elven Ale, which are... there. And there. So that's the thing I'm going to test first, just that on its own. Make sure that's correct. Red on top. Yep. Or should I say red in middle? It's probably the more robust way of phrasing that. Transmitter should be on. Okay. So I think I've got those the wrong way round. Yep, I have. Of course I have. Naturally. So if I just switch around the channels that the servos are going into. I could tell as soon as the trim was so far off that this wasn't the right way round. Although I might turn this off and the trim will be off even more, so you never know. Oh, it is off, but just in the other direction. But everything's the correct way round, and that's the main thing I'm interested in. Okay, that's a sub-trim thing that I need to deal with, but that's fine. Oh, it's powered off. That's not good. So, that loose connection that I thought I'd dealt with, eh? If that's a loose connection somewhere else, that would be very annoying if it is. If it's a loose connection in here, then I'm in big trouble. That makes me very sad. That makes me very sad indeed. Oh, part of me says I should stop doing this and debug that. Part of me says it's going to be fine. But the fact I thought I knew where it was and thought I'd fixed it is not good. That joint is obviously okay now, although there's a lot of... It's not a good solder joint, but it is solid and there's no way it's losing contact. This could now be the problem here. Oh dear. Soldering, not even once. I might give that a bit of hot glue on this side, you know, because that does look like if anything's going to be the issue, it'll be that one. Oh, it's so upsetting. I was thinking of ordering more of this style of regulator because I do like its form factor. It does fit in quite nicely with the way I tend to wire things. And it's cheap, which is also nice. But I think my soldering skills are holding back how effectively I can use it. And of course, my soldering is something that will improve. I think it's something that I'm going to try and find a way of practicing more discreetly because it is really poor at the moment. But then I could just buy components that don't require that skill in the same way. But that means I get less practice, and it's a vicious cycle, this one. Well, then you know what? If I'm going to at some point I want to be sort of putting something together about this style of build as a sort of beginner-friendly thing that doesn't involve soldering. So I suppose for that, at the very least, I'm looking for solutions that don't involve soldering. Oh God, I hope I've done that in a position where it actually makes contact. That could have been a massive mistake. Should have had it powered on while I did that, really. But I'm committed now. And if it comes to it, I will plug the battery in directly and screw the... No, I won't do that. For the purposes of a video, I would absolutely do that. For the purposes of actually using the thing, I wouldn't. Let's bring the battery back in. I still need to check the weapon servo positioning. Okay, that's good. Oh, wow, that was... Fail-safes are going to need resetting before I sort of call this done as well. Because that's obviously a problem. I'm going to need to do that with the weapon servo as well. So, okay, that seems fairly happy. Man, getting things on in the right order is still a challenge when you're not paying attention. But when you're actually arming up at an event, paying much closer attention, I don't think you really make that kind of mistake. When you're just doing it in testing in your own shed, easily done. Right, I'm going to see if I can find an appropriate servo horn for these as well. I've got these Hextronics and now the SG90s all lying around. And the servo horns are very similar, but not actually compatible with each other. That seems to be the right one at the first go. That's nice. So let's turn it on. Just going to prop this up on something so it doesn't try and drive away. Kind of thing that would be good practice anyway, to be honest. Okay, excellent. That is already in the right orientation. So something that I like to do with my control scheme that I assume is how most people do it, but you just never know how differently people perceive these things, is that I like down to be unfired and up to be fired regardless of the weapon. So on hello there, or a bold one, that means that down is the servo back and up is the servo forward. Same for Tropical Storm Phil. Actually, with this, however, it means that down is the servo kind of forward and up is the servo back. So that's very good to know. What I'm going to have to do when I've got the weapon arm on is just make sure that I've got this set back. No, sorry, forwards when I actually... No, sorry, back when I put it on. No. It'll make sense if you want to do it. Let's just see where the fail-safe position of it is. Okay, so it's currently fail-safing to down. Although that fail-safe differently to when I turned on without radio signal. Interesting. Very interesting. I'll have to look into that. It's the fail-safe from transmitter on to transmitter off that you're really interested in, but... Connect. There we are. So say I'm going full forwards, and then I turn the transmitter off, we want that to stop, which it currently does, which is good. But again, I will be rebinding just to set the fail-safes correctly later on. Excellent, so that's all set up. It's now going to be a question of wrangling these wires into position in a way that makes sense. So I think that will be the next part. I will give this a pause. We will get going again when I'm ready for that. Something I've noticed as I was just sort of resetting camera and moving a couple of bits around is that I'm a whole lot more anxious about this project this time around. Last time I kind of stood here and filmed, I was feeling pretty good. This time, I don't know if it's just because there were issues with the video last time, because I'm having to futz around with it this time. Maybe it's because I'm doing this on a Sunday, not a Friday, and there's sort of other things on my mind. But yeah, I'm not feeling quite as good about it as I was. I guess I'm getting to a stage of it where there's more to go wrong. And the fact that it didn't end well last time, in terms of the issue I had with the servo, the fact I've had to do stuff kind of off camera as well, I think has all contributed to that. But yeah, I'm going to crack on, obviously. I think there's a lot of fun to be had with this. It's just maybe... This isn't a stage of a build that I like, you know? But you're going to get that with any build that you're doing. There are going to be sort of moments of it where you've got to push through a boring job, a tricky job, a job that you end up redoing a few times. It's all unfortunately part of it, and I guess I'm lucky that I've worked with the teammates so much. I think we've definitely helped each other through that. And also lucky that the difficulties I've had haven't really been on the scale that I imagine a lot of new builders have, in terms of issues where you just don't have a clue what the issue is. That's the experience we had, not you at SXS. So that also gave us a little insight into how that feels. But anyway, I'm rambling. So last time I did the design, I kind of referred to this as an original chaos look. I don't know if that's as accurate as it could be. Maybe sort of Mace or Mace 2, whichever it was, without the spinner on the back would be a better comparison. But this kind of truncated box wedge look. I don't know how close I've got to this finished size, actually. I would just stand it up against it, but I don't think that's quite going to work. I'm going to have to measure it like a sensible and smart person. Can I find my good ruler? Yes, I can. I also found the 4mm drill bit I was looking for ages ago, which is nice. So, I was expecting it to be 40mm tall and 80mm long. How close have I got to that? 45 and 85. Okay. Well, let's go with that then, I suppose. So if I don't really have the red pen around, I still haven't found it. I did have the blue one earlier that I could use, unless I've lost that again, which is entirely plausible. There it is. So let's add the 5 up there, and the 5 along there. Man, this is bigger than I expected. No way is this actually that long. It's actually that long. Okay. So how far along does the weapon servo come? So that extends about 30mm, I suppose a little more from the back. So if I had this sort of top section extend around 40, just for clearance's sake. Don't know if my head's currently in the way, apologies if it is, at least there's not as much hair there as last time. And then if I were to bring that down to, let's say I give myself 10mm at the front. Pen's running out. Oh, that's not actually where it ends either, because I've added a new bit. Man, pens are not the right way to do this. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. You have been on the floor in variable temperatures for a while, so I'm sure you're not that happy, but something like that seems like it would work. I'm going to need big clearance for the motors on the side parts, that's for sure. So realistically, I'm going to want, I'll give them 35. That would be to there. And then in height, let's give them 20, just to be generous. So that means something like that. So that would be kind of the side profile of a side panel. And then what I did on the original fill that worked quite well is that to do the top part, I just got one long strip, did a sort of 40mm section, scored it and just bent it, and that came together quite nicely. What I'd love to do as well, because this isn't a front hinge, is when viewed from the front, I'd like it actually to be a solid front, with the weapon kind of just sticking out over the top and down. So it would only, so the weapon would probably stick out somewhere like here before then going down to the front. It's going to look like absolute arse, but it's going to work. It would be lovely to have it sort of all shrouded in here and just poking out the front, but that means that if I have it stick out of here, I've basically got all of this room. Imagine we've got the servo about there. We're going to persevere with this pen that's not working. So we've got the weapon arm coming out here. It means I've got all of this space for wires to just kind of mush around in without any fear of them getting tangled up in the weapon. If I had it come down here and then out, I'd have to have some way of retaining wires sort of below this level or to the sides without them getting tied up, which just loses you so much internal space that it makes solving the problem of wires harder than it already is. Because what I'd like to do, and that might be tricky with the sort of voltage regulator being this side, is I'd like to have all the power on this side and then the receiver kind of sitting somewhere like this, ideally. I might have to flip that and have it sitting on this side instead, which I won't try and do with the wires in the mess they're currently in. I'd have to sort of unplug things and replug them. Get the receiver kind of sitting there. Its front can come all the way down to here, actually, so there's still clearance for the battery and all of that. But again, I want to have the sides on before I start really trying to wrangle all of that around. So I think this is pretty much a design that I can just cut out of some foam board. Which means I first need to draw it properly on squared paper, then cut out of squared paper, then stick onto foam board, then cut out of foam board. It's a long process, which we shall start now. So I'll get the proper pencil, which is bad for your view of what's going on, but great for mine. The pencil is where it should be. That's a relief. Not some... Oh, hey! Found the red pen. So, this is just going to be a quick transfer of dimensions, really. So, it's 45 tall. Swoop. 85 long. Yeah, look at me using the ruler upside down. Swoop. I'm just working to the squares of this. That's kind of close enough for me. Go up 10 mil. Swoop. Then how far did this extend, did I decide? 40, okay. And then like that. Oh, the cutout in the bottom as well, so that's like that. And like that. Just give that a little cheeky shade in to make sure I remember that that is not something that's meant to be there. Let's give that a quick rough cut out of the page. Oh no, my beautiful diagram will never be the same again. Normally I'd be super careful cutting this, because one of the disadvantages, this is the only way I really have of doing things, but it is something where errors can kind of stack up. Errors can also cancel out, but they can kind of stack up in terms of your drawing's never quite perfect, and then you cut it out, and your cutting out's never quite perfect. And you stick it down to the material and cut that out, and that cutting's never quite perfect either. So normally I'm very careful with this stage just to try and reduce that error. But in the case of this build, this isn't something where millimeters matter. You know, when you're working with 5mm thick material, 0.5 mm errors aren't that noticeable. When you're working with 1.5mm thick material, 0.5 mm errors are noticeable. Don't know why I threateningly pointed the scissors at the lens there, but I did. We've got to live with that. So if that went on there, that would be ideal. Do I scissor cut or do I scalpel cut? I should scalpel cut. Scalpel cut is what a thoughtful and conscientious builder would do. But am I either of those things? Head in the way for the purpose of gluing. Audio terrible for the purpose of gluing. Okay, try and use these already cut edges as best I can. As best I can is not very well, apparently. Look at that. It might just be the top layer of the material that's like that. Now, scissor cutting is fine for these outer parts, but I should really be scalpeling that. But I don't have anything to cut on. I have my big stash of 10mm HDPE, but I don't really want to scratch that all up. Actually, this is small enough that I could do this. Do the outer first. Okay, I'm also just scared of hurting myself on camera. Now, I don't like hurting myself at the best of times, but doing it on camera is extra bad. Normally, I'd like to have the the ruler on the work side, because then if I do wander, I don't wander into the work. But in this case, this is a much more comfortable entry point. There we go, and now for this side, I can have it where I like it. Probably means I'll be less careful and more error prone. Could also probably do with a fresh scalpel blade in here, really, but that's not bad. It's pulled a little bit of foam out, but it's no biggie. Again, this isn't ever going to see full combat, so... And you're probably thinking, who would put a foam board robot into full combat? I would. I have. It ended in fun. I regret absolutely nothing. Apart from the fact that I was very lucky not to cause a lipo fire, but I didn't, so it's all good. Plus, it would really have been Tom that caused it. You know, it'd been his weapon hitting my battery. Oh man, that's come out pretty clean. Don't forget the last bit, Ryan, or else you're accidentally going to make a proper wedge, and no one wants that. He says, with a piece of Thunderchild next to him. That's not the... There we go! May not like it, but this is what perfection looks like. I'm glad I scalpeled that. I'm glad I scalpeled it. It was the right thing to do. I should really do the next one while I've got everything out. So the order is going to be get side panels on, get wiring tidied, make and mount the weapon, and then finally add the top. There'll probably be some internal mountings within that that are kind of come under the wiring part, particularly in terms of something to guide the location of the battery. That's not something you want flapping around inside, even on something that's not going to face full combat. Even I have limits to the jank that I will allow. So, another one of those, please. Coming right up, sir. So, 45 tall. Wow. Don't know if you can see how badly that went. 45 tall by 85 long. Again, head probably in shot. Again, not sorry, this bit matters. Up 10. Along 40. Just on the diagonal, however it comes together. And then it's 35 in. 20 up. Perfection. Just another reminder to myself because of my 10-second memory. How dare you, glue? How dare you? Get this cut out. Said I wasn't worrying too much about accuracy, but that was about to be way too inaccurate. There we go. Not as good as the original, but good enough. What's the most material efficient way of doing this? That's the next question. So I could ideally do with having a big strip that I can do for the top. How wide is this thing actually? Obviously including the extra 10mm of material. Yeah, that'll be plenty. Hopefully it'll be plenty anyway. Head once again in the way, once again not sorry. And away we go. Slide, go, little slide back. That's what I love about a glue stick, slightly repositionable. Perfection. Not repositionable for that long though. Let's do this. Try a slightly shallower angle this time, just to avoid all the foam pull-out issues I was having. Though it does kind of hurt my perpendicularity with these things. Okay, multiple passes, it's also happier with. Come on. There we go. No tag remaining there, that's no biggie. There we go. My cutting has got better, you know. Which is funny, because I haven't done that much practice of it, but I guess because I've been cutting other things in other ways, it all kind of transfers, you know. There we go. This will be where I mess it up, because I praised myself, and because it's the last cut for the time being. So I ended up sawing it, because I was being overly cautious. Oh, that was handy. Beautiful. Well, side panels are go. Now, just for aesthetics, I'm going to try and make sure that I've cleared as much paper as I can off of these, and then the side that I have the glue on will be the inside. You don't want to do that with the paper still on, because then your join is only as strong as the Pritt stick that was holding the paper on. That could do with a little clean up there. There we go. The reason I kind of explored foam board as a building material was A, that I could work on it without a saw, which when I was away at my summer work was really helpful. But also because it does have pretty good impact resistance. It's not good with sharp things, obviously. It's not particularly strong against being cut, but in a weight class where you don't see that many spinners, and verticals would just launch it, so even they wouldn't be that much of a concern, I don't think, especially if you really upped the thickness on the front. It will just chunk away. And when you're mostly facing, you know, flippers, pushers, whatever, I do think you could viably get a foam board robot safely through a few rounds of a tournament without having to sort of completely rebuild it. And it is something that you can just hot glue back together. So I stand by it as a potential build material. I think the new Bristol rule set in particular could suit a foam board build. And maybe that is what I will do for it. Obviously I've already got a bold one, but I feel like I might have to build a second and get someone to drive it, you know, so that person would probably be Sam. I think he'd be happy to come and drive. He doesn't particularly want to build Antweight. Which is fair, because, you know, I'm making it look really hard, so Where did I put the glue? I've lost the glue gun. This is an emergency. There it is. It was very slightly underneath something, thus making it invisible. So we have side panels. We have a glue gun heating up to attach said side panels. So they are going to have to go outboard. Like that. Ooh, that's going to struggle to actually attach to much on this side. That could be fun. How to attach? So first of all, they're not quite long enough, which is a shame, although I might just... I'll probably pull them flush to the front. I just didn't account for the material thickness on the back, basically. I'll probably pull them flush to the front and just let whatever happens at the back happen. Once the top panel goes on, it'll give something to sort of attach to at the top there. This one will be fine because I can attach it to the weapon servo. That one won't be a problem at all. So I will start with that one. Dimensionally, it seems pretty good. Obviously, everything was also built on the assumption that this was 90 degrees, and it isn't quite 90 degrees. So I think if I just glue up this area first and slap it on there, get it up, I can then kind of run a bead of hot glue just along here to help secure the front part. Because again, the more hot glue the better on this one. It just needs to hold and keep on holding. Probably going to run out of this glue stick partway through, which will be a shame, but no matter. I'll use as much of it as I have to on this one, this joint. That wasn't as hot as it could have been. This might not be a great joint. It's a very thick joint. Sorry, camera angle be damned once again. All the spill out has gone into the area where I'm going to need to attach the next part later on, so I'll have to burn myself clearing that. Lovely. There we go, it's on. Ish. Well, it is on. There's no ish about it, it's definitely on. That is fairly flush on bottom. I'm quite happy with that, you know. Happy enough, at least. Is this video number 3 or number 4 of this session? Can't remember. First couple were quite short. I don't want to take this session much beyond 2 hours. If this requires a third, it requires a third. I will live with that. Mostly for my own sanity, you realise. Go, bead of hot glue. Hold it tight. Dancing to a tune that's only in my head. You add your own music. Nice. I'm happy with that. Do wish I'd cut these a little closer so that it would all be shrouded behind the wheel, but what are you going to do? In fact, I can paper over that if I have to. Check there is clearance for the wheel all the way round. Yep, that's nice. It's very nice. Now the tricky side. Yay. How am I going to do this? It's just going to have to be the bead along the bottom, I think. That's going to have to be, you know, the bulk of it for now. Unless... could do a little block along here. I might have to do that, you know. Just to give it some strength. Didn't want to have to do this. It does give me a chance to use a bit of this up. So that's something. Use the thicker end. I've got to cut it with... my wire clippers should go through this, you know. Well, these ones definitely will. Worst thing to drop. It's only the ruler, but still. Damage the end. Damn it. That was tougher than I expected. But they beasted their way through there. What a tool. So, if I were to go... That way gives me the most surface area. So if I glue this down like that, I can then glue onto it. That seems like the best way forward. Oh, that's stuck too well, too well. No, 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 no. Abort, abort. That's set up way too fast for my liking. I might actually glue the surface instead of the part for this one. That'd be a little easier. Get that off. Ow. This is probably the point where lesser builders would begin to question their construction methods. Fools! There you go, that's good enough. And that's the last of that stick as well. Fortunately, the glue sticks are now really easy to find because I spilled them all throughout the toolbox. That's a fix off camera kind of thing. Really got distracted by a bit of tool repair there. So, new glue stick going in. Push the old stuff through. Tasty. Be quite liberal with this bit, because a bit of squeeze out won't be an issue. And prepare to get burned. Warm, 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 warm. And unfortunately, I'm just going to have to leave this top part unsupported for now, which I'm not comfortable with. I don't like. It's the way it's going to have to be. Again, once the top panel goes on, it won't be an issue, but I'm also going to have to use a different servo horn, I've just realised. Well, actually, there won't be any cover over there, so maybe I can get away with this one. So I'll have a close think about which one I do use, because that is actually a worthwhile area of thought and decision making. Trying to do something about this puddle of glue, because it is a little excessive. Any scrap paper? No, but I have some scrap foam. Just, yeah. That's still super hot. Oh, I regret everything. I regret everything. And this is a low melt gun as well. Ow. Ow. Why? Existence is pain. Damn it. Just keep sticking. Just going to put it in the bin and let it stick to other rubbish, so I don't have to worry about rubbish. Right, where was I? Oh yeah, now is the time for cable management. Oh dear God. See, if there's one thing I'd like to do off camera, it's this. But that's the way it's going to have to be. I'm sorry, audio is going to suck for a while because I'm going to sit down for this part. And that means that my face is no longer going to be at phone microphone height. It also means that everything's going to jiggle around as I try to fit my overly long legs into a space that really don't accommodate them. Space that really doesn't accommodate them. Doesn't accommodate grammar either, apparently. So let's think, what tools am I going to need? Probably some hot glue, probably some tape. Let's get that out. Scissors for the tape. Probably quite a lot of tasty beverage. Won't put that on the table with the electronics now I think about it. Pencil can go. Grab the battery out of the LiPo bag that it was definitely in. I think as ready as we'll ever be. I'd love to have some little cable ties, but I can't remember where I put them. So, I'm in. I'm in for the long haul. Right. Let's get the glue gun out of the way, but keep it on for emergencies. So I need to think about where I want to have the receiver. I think I'm happy having it on this side with the regulator, but I would like something separating it, which is good. So I've got lots of little scraps of foam board now that can be used to kind of help arrange components. So that, I don't want to put too much stress on the wires going into this. That is where it wants to sit naturally, so that is where I'm going to let it sit. Stuff like that I'm happy to just sort of design and lay out around. Yeah, because it involves my solder joints and all of that, which aren't particularly reliable, we'll let it sit in a way that puts minimal stress on it. Next, I want the receiver. I'm going to take everything except the drive servos off of it for now, just because I want to make sure that if I take them off, I only take them off one at a time, so I can make sure I put them back on the correct sides. So I want the receiver to sit pretty much there, with all the wiring kind of coming back down and well out the way of the servo. So I'm going to do a very little dab of hot glue on this, just to stick it down to the tape that is quite loosely holding the regulator down. There we go. Then I might actually, no, I'm actually going to use the little double-sided sticky pad that comes with the receiver. I've not used one of those before. I've always just kind of come up with my own solutions, but in this case it's something that I know it will be happy to be stuck to. It won't complain. You know, it's not like hot gluing to it where the heat could be an issue. It's just something that I know is designed for the purpose. Just have to find it. And I imagine I've kind of shuffled it right to the bottom of the box. Hey, Wowbagger. Hey, repaired servo I was looking for earlier. Hey, ESC. Hey, entire receiver that would definitely be a better fit for this project, but I couldn't be bothered redoing the mixing for. Okay, what's going on here? Who stole my pads? Was it you? I know I found it earlier. That's really weird. Is it in the other box? Would I have classed that as a material? Maybe. Does my system of sorting these things not actually make any sense? Yeah. This is also kind of my empty bag storage, so maybe I put it in here thinking it was an empty bag. No, oh, this is infuriating. I don't appreciate this at all. Did I try to do something funny with it? Maybe? This is content right here. So, come on, Wowbagger. Ah, there it is. Wow. Maybe it got caught up with Wowbagger or with the ESC as I took those out for no real good reason. But anyway, here we are. With the part that we needed. I assume this is sticky on both sides. Looks like it would be. Let's see if I can unpeel it. You know what? It needs to be sticky on this side because that's the side I'll put on the receiver, and I'll just put hot glue on the other side for speed. How about that? Let's whack that down on the foam board. At this point, I probably could have just used the foam board, so I just used the foam pad. But I might regret not doing that in a sec. Wow, this is really tough to... Well, I'm now part of the robot, and boy is it raining. There's some really good sticky stuff. There we go, that can go on there, and it's all looking perilously close to the servo. But that is, honestly, that is just part and parcel of ant building. Things get close to other things. Let that set up for a second. Wow, that is highly unpleasant outside. And of course I've kicked the table. That's the first of many times. So the next thing is going to be to manage the length of these servo wires. My plan is to basically just snake them onto themselves. Just going to involve tape. So let's get some length of tape ready while that sets. Damn it! That's annoying. That's going to keep happening, then I'll just need a different solution, won't I? Actually, you know what? That's getting really close to interfering with the top panel as well. This isn't going to work, this solution. Shove that into there. It's going to have to go directly down onto here, I think. Ooh, hot glue's not very strong. You'll need something stronger. Well, look at this. Just have to remove the tape, I think, and retape. There we go. Good job I have some just here, isn't it? Wow, that is super strongly bond. Yeah, look at that. Well, there you go. This isn't a surface that takes hot glue very well, but I'm just going to have to live with that fact. Use more. There we go. That seems a lot more compact that way. I'm actually pretty happy. So this is the left side drive, which I would much rather not be dealing with first. So I'll just deal with the other one first, that's fine. I'll just tack that back in for now. No need to give it the beans and really get it firmly attached. So this just wants to be snaking like that. I think that'll be enough. Haven't got a spare bit of tape though. Maybe I should have done this part actually before I put the sides on, because it is making access a little tricky, but just going to have to work with it. Again, ants are fiddly. It's a fact of the weight class. Just got to deal with it. So maybe, do I actively tape that down there? Or actively hot glue that down there? Ooh. No, tape. Definitely tape. So I need to make sure I leave enough for this to still come up to here. Get out the way! Move, wire. Get out the way. Get out the way, wire. Get out the way. Content ID! That's one bit down. This isn't taming the mess as much as embracing it. So that's already taped down by that, which is handy. If I just gave it another little... In my head I was going to do this much more neatly, but again, needs must. It gets it done. And that is the important thing, it just needs to work. Again, get the actual battery wire out of the way. See if I can pin that down with this piece as well, because why not? Feels like another good time to point out that at no stage in this build have I said that anything I'm doing is the right way. I'm simply saying that it's a way and the way that I'm using. Okay, so that is now... Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. We don't like that at all. we go, and that will probably get a bit of tape just holding it all down at the end anyway. I need to maintain access to the bind plug. In fact, I'd better do that once I've got all of these in. I need to know where the weapon will sit before I can really do the fail-safey things. But I did say I was going to mount the weapon before I put the top on, so maybe this is fine. Alright, power distribution goes in, and I need to be able to make sure I can see this is correct. This is going to be, again, unfortunately it's going to be bye-bye camera view, hello, actually getting this in the right place for this one, because this is obviously rather important. You know, making sure that the entire receiver and therefore robot is powered correctly. Maybe I should have done this one a little earlier in the process. But there we are. And pressed down very well. Just making sure that I'm pressing the plug and not the wires. There we go, that seems to be in. Going to give it a check. Okay, so whatever's going on with the power is still an issue. I think it might be at the switch, you know, that's annoying. So I can't really get to that to do anything about it. But there we are, everything is fine. Just get it switched off. Really worried about whatever that power problem is though. Really worried about that. So I think it's something on the switch connection. Again, there's just nothing I can do about it now. Which sucks, but it's the way it is. And the last thing to think about is actually this battery slot and how this all works. So I need something. Right, so the way this works, I'm going to do this first time as though it's already in. The way it works is that this must be accessible from the outside. So it slots in through, or it leaves, should I say, through here. So I want something that stops the battery going any deeper than it currently is, first of all. And that's going to be a foam board based solution. Now I also need a foam board based solution across here that stops it all getting tangled up with the weapon. Bit of hot glue on there. That attaches to here. So that's going to stop the battery getting over that way, if anything. The wiring is just kind of going to end up following the battery. In fact, I might do a bit coming off of here that almost brings it all the way down, you know? Don't know how far I am into this video either, which is stressful. Better have a little check. Oh, wow, this is 17 minutes. Okay, I think I can get this done before I have to restart this. Oh, man, I regret so much. I feel like I should really be allowing the battery to slide all the way forwards. Or do I always have it? It gives me nothing to grab onto though. You see, I need the charge plug to grab onto, or the wires to be able to grab onto with tweezers to get it out again. So it needs to be going in this way, and then I'll be able to kind of finesse it out however I have to. Especially if I can stop that getting up there. which I think I'm going to have to do. This was an ambitious plan, this whole switchable battery thing. Maybe I need to get rid of this part, which is easily done. Very easily done. It's not helping me mount to anything. Although it's going to be... Do you know, will it be? So at the moment, I can try and set the top panel sort of into what I already have. Or I can just do it on top of what I already have. So I can give myself another 5 more clearance there. I'm going to do that. To make this battery switching setup work. It isn't the best way to cut it, but it's the way it's available to me right now. Maybe I can just snap it off. There we go. I'll give that a little file. Actually, it doesn't need a little file. It hasn't left a sharp bit. That's nice. So that now just gives me a little bit more clearance for getting this in and out, and that makes me a bit happier. I might even do it in such a way that I always keep this external. That would be quite nice. Again, need to make sure that it's not trying to push up past any kind of top panel. But that I think can work. Especially if I remove this, that makes it look like I'm doing something unsafe. Because obviously everything I'm doing is super safe. Make these really hard to remove. Come on. Just finesse that off. There we are. So I think that does kind of work. Obviously it's all a bit springy, but it's going to have something retaining it, so that's not a big issue. So it's just a question of making sure that it can't fall in too far. But if I make sure that I'm attaching this down every time, then it can't fall in too far. Then maybe I can, I'm going to do something across here. I don't know how much of this is really visible, I'm sorry. But again, I've just got to make sure I get this right more than I get it filmed well. I think if I just do a little block across here as well, maybe half of this, just to stop it coming in too far. That will give me peace of mind as much as anything. No, that lives there now. Keep putting my glue gun down in the pile of glue, which is making for a super attractive look. There we are. That'll set up in a second. Again, genuinely not my worst cable management in a robot. Take that as you will. So next up, I want to get it powered on, and I want to set the end point for the... Can't do that because the weapon's not plugged in yet. Okay. That's actually going to be pretty hard to do in the mess that I've left myself. It's looking so good until I remembered that the weapon was a thing. This is actually going to drag it down a little bit, unfortunately. But, again, it's just got to be functional. I'm not using this to show off the internals of a robot. I'm using this to show off what it's like to drive a robot. And also, I am doing a second one of these. That'll be a chance to maybe get this a bit more tidy. Okay, so that needs to come down into... Oh boy, I am not getting this rebound easily. It's going to be a real struggle. I'm going to have to do it because otherwise the weapon's probably going to crash, which would not be good for anything. Right. Get that pressed down properly. That is fully seated. Excellent. And again, the wiring's a bit of a mess, but when I get the lid on, it will just get pressed down like that. So that will be fine, I think. To simulate that, I'm going to quickly tape it down, just because I know that with a bundle of wires like this, things can interfere, and that is not fun, especially when the things being interfered with are also your drive motors. No one likes being interfered with. That's on. That's on. So that is fully down. And I'm going to quickly sort this trim out as well because it's annoying me. No, not transmitter menu, model menu. There we go. Excellent. Just check that that does drive fairly straight with that trim level. Oh, yes. That is on. Oh, I mean, it drifts a little to the right, but I'm very happy with that. Hey, something actually worked. It's always a good feeling. So, weapon is currently down. So what I want to do... In fact, if that's already the setup, I might just not mess with it. Because... Oh no, I'm not going to be able to get a screw into this. Ah! Damn it. I'm going to rely on this friction fitting. Oh. Great, that power issue is striking again. There we go. So I don't know how well you can see that, but... I'm starting to wonder if the battery's the problem. There we go, so that's quite a nice range of motion for it. It's not going to self-right off of that, which is always nice. So it'll just be a question of attaching something to this servo horn that actually does the lifting. You come straight out the front and down. I'm happy with that, yeah. I don't like that position that it doesn't work in. I wonder... I'm really worried that this is the issue. I'm just going to have to run with it. To be honest, just going to have to run with it. I think once everything's under tension, a little swizzle of the battery will fix it. But not ideal. Not ideal. I don't think it can be on the switch side, because the switch side cable is, you know, glued down pretty tightly. It's only moving this part around that seems to make the difference. Food for thought. I think I'm going to stop this video and the whole video there, because getting the weapon on is going to be a different set of tools, different set of thoughts, and honestly I'm still feeling weirdly anxious about this, and I think I could do with a break. I will probably have a play around off camera at some point with whatever's going on with the power, because that is a concern. But overall, I'm not dissatisfied with what I've got going on here. I'm looking at it, actually I'm thinking maybe this bundle of cables could almost go under the servo. Yeah, that's it for now. It's in working order. I'm very happy with the drive. Very happy with the drive. It can even, obviously, it's, you know, scissors don't weigh a robot, but it's nice to see that the wheels have enough grip to actually do a bit of pushing. That's, you know what, I'm going to have to try it. I don't think it'll work, but let's get an actual Antweight down. Obviously this Antweight is unpowered. Let's see if I can push it. Why not? Little test to end on. Shockingly, it can't do it. But again, that's good. This isn't meant to be competitive, but at least it'll try, you know? What happens if I'm not putting this one upside down, actually, because stuff will fall out. Can I see and reach Phil behind me? Phil, where are you? Phil! Philip! I don't know where I'll put it. But yeah, that's it. It's a driving chassis. If I were just trying to build a wedge, I would be done at this point. It gives me confidence that this could be a good sort of beginner style build.